of my life. You mean a lot to me, every one of you. Good evening. Thank you. Appreciate you guys are so kind with your words. Thank you for your love. Okay, if you want to invite me to speak, please go on my page, and this page you will see the number to contact. That's my official line, and we will reach out to you. God bless you, Deutschland. Good evening. Thank you so very much. God bless you all. It is going to be awesome today. I have a fantastic guest. I was just sharing with my husband a few minutes ago. This guest of mine is absolutely intelligent. He knows what he's doing. When it comes to relationships, family, and tonight we are looking at building a family system that works. Please let me say this as I always do as my opening remark. Love yourself unapologetically. That is my opening remark tonight. Love yourself unapologetically. Love yourself unapologetically. You don't owe anybody any explanation. If you love yourself, you will take care of yourself and you will not allow abuse. Love yourself unapologetically. Tonight, we're going to really hit the ground running, and my guest is here. I am praised for Fowowe. Yeah. I just sent him an invite now, and my God, this man is a blessing. He's here. Glory. Woo. Hi, praise.
Good evening, Mom. How are you, Ma?
From where you are, or good afternoon.
It's afternoon here.
Okay. Thank you so very much, Praise, for doing this again. Please let me see. Many times our leaders, people that God has blessed our lives with, they live, they bless us, they impact, and they die before we let them know how impactful their lives have been. No, I preach against that. And I want to say, Praise, you are a blessing. You are a colossal blessing. A huge one, a massive one. God is using you, and we are glad that you are in our generation. So thank you for doing this again. Thank you for saving lives. Thank you. So tonight I'm going to yield the floor to you, and while you are ministering to us or talking to us or counseling with us, I'd like you to please chip in the different kinds of programs that you have that can help families, that can help coaches. Like I want to do one with you, if not for my school and all that. So I like you because I don't want to interrupt you, really. Yes. You have 1 hour or thereabout to just, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Mom. Good evening, everyone. And thank you very much, Mommy, for always inviting me. I do not take it for granted at all. And I mean, you are so ageless in the sense that you're not just, I remember when you came to Yola when I was doing my youth service, and you came to Upper Room Cathedral. I was serving Bishop McCantrell, and I had to come and see you there, and that was, when I was still on campus, we used to come to Agape and all, and to still see you doing what you're doing, it's almost incredible. We just hope that our generation and the younger generation coming, they will have the same level of humility that has sustained you up until this time. Thank you very much. I look up to you a lot. And thank you so much for watching our back and for being there for us at every point in time when we call. Okay, so I've been asked to speak on building an effective family system today. Now, there are a couple of things unpacked in that topic. Especially, I want you to pick the word family systems for all of you listening to me. Now, every family has a semblance of systems, but not every family has got an intentional system that can deliver on the outcome they want. Now, what does that simply mean? System is the best way to demystify a system is 1 + 1 = 2. Now, if 1 + 1 becomes 3, you want to find out how did it become 3. Now, what we do oftentimes, and it's not because we're bad people, it's just because circumstances happen to us as Africans, that emotions overrode, systems. In the UK, if the train is supposed to depart port of call at 9 a.m., if the King of England is running late, the train is still going to go, right? Because the system that is built on precision. In Africa, if a plane is supposed to depart and a minister is running late, let's say 1 hour late, they're likely going to ground the plane, not minding the appointments every other passenger's got, just because someone is running late. Now, that is a clear distinction between systems and emotion. Now, every time you in your family do things that has not been agreed, pre-agreed, and predetermined ahead of time, and you do it anyhow, and nobody can call you to order, that is a typical system that is built on emotion. So, for example, if you slap your child without agreeing prior to the time the offense is committed, that slapping is the punitive measure for that offense, that's emotion. That's not a system. System is the fact that you will act the way it's been projected that you're going to act given the circumstances on ground. Now, this is a big issue because our culture does not promote or does not make certain systems work. And that's why Jesus even says that you have made the word of God of no effect by your tradition. What it means is if you put the word of God side by side with tradition, for example, the word of God says, as the head of the family, he that seeks to be the leader, let him be the servant of all. But culture says, he that seeks to be the leader, let him remote control everybody and sit down as a village chief and do nothing and let everyone worship him. Now, if you place the word of God side by side with that reality, you will discover that culture is winning, right? So consistently, we have been held back because we do not have precision. For example, you hear a lot of infidelity in marriage and stuff, and a lot of people complaining. Now, let's assume I'm running premarital counseling. Now, if I'm running premarital counseling for people, part of what we do is we run them through an entire program that talks about everything, including deal breakers. And that deal breakers are documented. So if we say we want to build a family that works, and if the deal breaker says that, if you cheat on me, I have zero tolerance for cheating, I cannot tolerate it, you know that when you go and do what you want to do, you know the consequence. So there's no emotion, there is no whatever. And let's even assume that maybe the lady decides to forgive, right? You cannot determine the amount of time it takes her to grieve, right? You can only be appealing, right? So nobody can come and say, it don't do now, it's enough now. No, right? Because that is precision and that is systems. Now, I needed to set that background because oftentimes when we talk about systems, a lot of people do not know. And that's why one of the things I have dedicated my life to doing consistently is to teach family systems and to teach Africans how to, because the future of Africa is basically in our families. So when you see a leader misbehave, you say this leader does not listen, this leader is bad, they all emerge from our family. The question we should be asking is, what kind of systems raised them? Now, if your systems are not intentional, you will still raise a child. It may be a good child, but it will be compromised. Because, and if you see it all the time, if you watch movies, you would see why a lot of the wealthy people don't want their children to marry the people they call commoners, right? And it's because of precision. They have a quality of life, a quality of personality, a way of thinking that they think the person you are bringing in is going to sabotage. And I don't totally agree with them because, anybody can, you don't have, you can't determine how you were born, but you can create the future you want for yourself, right? And so I love the scripture that says in Proverbs 24, verse 3 to 4. It says, any enterprise is built by wise planning. Now, you know that wise planning, it's not something that we are used to. So when you talk about family, we plan for wedding. That's why we hire wedding planners. We never plan for marriage. So wedding, it's like a movie. It's make-believe, right? It makes you somebody that doesn't have a car. It makes you look like somebody that's a governor with a convoy. But marriage will reveal that you don't have a car because you're going to walk with your leg a day after. Because all the people that borrowed you cars, they're coming to collect their cars, right? Wedding makes you feel like you can feed the entire world, but you get into debt, right? Marriage will ensure that you pay back the people who are owing you. So I often say to people that, you see, the most important thing in a wedding ceremony does not cost money. And that is, yes, I do. If you cook all the food, buy all the clothes, if at the point where they say, do you take this person? And you say, no, I don't. That's the end of the thing, right? And yes, I do can be said anyhow. It can be said in pastor's office. You don't even need a crowd to do it. So the drama of wedding is what we celebrate, not even marriage. So a lot of people don't prepare for marriage. Now, so wise planning means we need to sit down and articulate the kind of family we want to build. I mean, I think it's disrespectful to think that a lady who has gone to school and has been, properly trained, will come to the marital table and she doesn't have a say over how she wants her future to look like. One of the errors that has been taught over time is the fact that you are just coming to be supporting whatever the man is doing. No, you also have your own life. It has to be a fusion of your collective vision so that both of you can champion it, right? Because you can't, I mean, if you weren't married, you would have lived a life anyways, so to say that, and I see it all the time, people come married to table, and then, someone is saying, now that you're coming to married to table, when we marry, you have to stop working so that I can do what? If you want to marry a cook, put it on the table to say you want to marry a cook, and you don't want to marry a wife because the wife is not a cook, all right? And so consistently, you see people compromise, their power because they want to get married. And because there's so much pressure, biological clock is clicking, science has demystified all those things. You can freeze your egg. A lot of things are now possible. So you don't have to put yourself and marry the next, for lack of a better word, the next fool simply because you want to be a Mrs. Somebody. Because I have seen it consistently where people marry down and they expect a person who at best should be a mentee to now become their leader. He cannot lead you. He doesn't have capacity to lead you. So I always say that if a man cannot withstand your greatness, then he's not qualified to be your husband. And that's what Mommy was saying when she said that, you don't apologize for your life unapologetically. I even believe that, you see, dependent people should not get married. I think two independent people should get married so that they can become interdependent. So if you don't have a life, you don't have a job, you can't feed yourself, don't even aspire to get married because you will set yourself up for abuse. Because the human soul is not built to be idle. What you earn as income is a reflection of the value you're adding to the society, right? When that is taken away from you and you have to write requisition before a husband can buy you sanitary towel, your life is already, they've already gotten you, for lack of a better word, right? So you want to, because your esteem, your capacity to add value is at the core of your identity. Right. And so at the negotiation table, there are critical things you want to negotiate. And don't be afraid to walk away if the person is not, I've said it here, unequal yoke with an unbeliever. An unbeliever is someone who doesn't believe what you believe. Right. So don't compromise that. It doesn't mean it's a bad person. An unbeliever is not a bad person. It just means you don't align in your worldview. And you always have to understand that it's a man or a woman you want to marry. And men and women abound in every culture of the world. So don't restrict yourself to Yoruba culture because you're a Yoruba woman or your village people, because not everyone in your village is wise. If everyone in your village were wise, your village would have been a first world village, right? But the road has not been tarred. Probably it has looked worse than what it used to be when you were growing up. So you cannot restrict yourself to the conditioning of the people that raised you. So Bible says any enterprise, and enterprise here is the family system, is built by wise planning. What it means is there has to be an architectural masterpiece before you even start building, which a lot of people never do, to say, what future do we want? What kind of family do we want to build? What are the family vision? How are we going to do this? What are the regular activities that can lead to this end? So here is what we do. The way I see many of us try to build a family is like someone who says, I want to cook banga soup, right? If you're not Nigerian listening to this, banga soup is a typical soup in Nigeria, right? And you want to cook banga soup, but you go to the market and you buy hibiscus leaf, right? And you buy water, and you get to your house and you pour water on the stove, on the pot, and you put it on your gas, and then you put hibiscus leaf inside. You add sugar to it, and you now add a lot of prayers to it. And you say, God, I receive banga soup. You know that what you are preparing is obo, right? It's like because punch, right? But no matter the amount of prayers you have to it, it's not going to produce whatever. So what many of us do is we put in the wrong resources, then we add a lot of prayer and fasting to it, expecting a badly behaved human being to suddenly miraculously become nice in marriage. Because they say the omelette is only as good as the egg. Marriage cannot be better than the quality of two people who get into the marriage. So if it wasn't someone who used to listen to counsel, who wasn't teachable, at the point of before you got married to him, it's not likely you're not going to be teachable, except providence happens and God miraculously transforms him. So any enterprise is built by wise planning becomes strong through common sense. Now, common sense is not common because you can't sustain a home without common sense, by the way. And common sense will include things like, we always said, in marriage, you don't insist on your right, you do what is right, right? That sometimes what takes your marriage to work is to say, I'm sorry, right? Even when you think you're right. I am sorry is what brings peace. You have to say that I'm sorry. Now, lack of common sense will say, you know, I must fight for my right. I must fight for my right. And a lot of homes are disintegrate, you know, as a result of it. And I'm not talking about people who abuse people and for you to be wallowing in abuse. No, the covenant of life is superior to any form of covenant. You need to stay alive to even fall in love. So it says he becomes strong through common sense. But the third part of it, it says it profits wonderfully by keeping abreast of facts. And that is where we miss out. Because keeping abreast of facts paints a picture of a dynamic world that keeps changing. That your spouse is going to change, right? And so if you are not tracking to know that the appetite has changed, to know that the economic situation has changed, to know that the reality has, and that is what is hurting a lot of men. Because they are not keeping abreast of the fact that the 21st century woman is no longer the 19th century woman who stayed at home and never went to work. That the 21st century woman is in the boardroom. She's no longer alone in the bedroom. She's in the boardroom, which means she functions at work. She switches to a masculine mode at work, backing out instructions to her subordinate. That by the time she gets back home, she may forget to switch back to her feminine mode and continues to back instruction. Now, a skilled man will know that it's not because she wants to be ordering you around, it's because she has forgotten to switch back to her feminine mode. And your job is to remind her, if you have been keeping abreast of fact, that sweetheart, this is home, this is not office, right? Instead of getting offended and now beginning to say that, why are you acting like a man? You know, so there are so many dynamics that keeping abreast of facts is to let you know that, you know, men are no longer the only ones who are logical. Every human being now has logic and emotion. Right? So if you are still living with the old school that men are logical, women are emotional, you will now meet women who are logical because the one you have utilized the most is the one that becomes very pronounced. So you meet a logical woman and you cannot deal with that logical woman simply because all you have been taught, all you have been told from your old syllabus is that women never question anything. They just keep quiet. They just stay there because of children. No, that syllabus has changed. And so many of us never keep abreast of fact. Now, if you want to build an effective family system, you have to first understand that there are battle lines that you need to pay attention to. Without even understanding those battle lines, you cannot even win what we're talking about. Now, there is something that has gone on with them. The first battle line is the battle line of identity. Mommy mentioned it when she was talking that don't apologize for who you are, provided that you know who you are, because many of us do not know who we are. Now, at the point of marriage, I run assessment for premarital couple, intending couples, and most of the times, 80% of the time, the report card comes back as pseudo-personality. Pseudo-personality means that your originality has been compromised at a certain stage in your life, and what you're manifesting is a false you. And that's why if you're listening to me, you always feel inferior when there is someone else who is better dressed than you, or suddenly you lose your voice, you enter a place and you see powerful people and you suddenly begin to feel out of place, right? That is a clear feedback that something is wrong, or you are perpetually jealous of other people and the only way to think you are relevant is to try to pull them down or gossip about them. Those are markers that something is wrong with you, because if you are busy trying to be yourself, you won't even bother about other people. I always tell people that I don't know how to be other people. I only know how to be me, right? And if you can't accept this me, I'm sorry. That's why sometimes people say I am cocky, and it's not because I am cocky, simply because they expect me to pull down my head and for them to trample on my head. And I'm not going to do that because my dad was an Anglican priest. One of the things they taught me is to be myself everywhere I go, right? And so when people can't deal with your significance, they think they're going to bully you into submission, and it's your responsibility to let them know that you're not going to compromise yourself because you want to make them happy. Because if you do that, you would have denied your very essence. And if you now become unconsciously competent at pretending to be who you are not, you would have compromised your personal power, because your real power is actually authenticity. So when it comes to the battle line of identity, who do we say who we are, and what does that mean exactly? You know, recently I started teaching parents in America to begin to go back to their genealogy and find out the power that God has placed in their lineage, because all of us have got that power. Now, I know that when Christianity came to Africa, we began to say there is something bad about our whatever. But if you look at it keenly, what we will call bad has a corresponding positive. And I'll give you an example. I was talking to a lady and about this, and she went back because she's been battling with identity crisis and stuff. So she went back to check her genealogy and found out that her great-great-grandfather was a man who traded in slave trade, and he was a powerful warrior. He has a staff of office. In fact, the man would collect other people's wives, right? Marry their wives, and they would not be able to do anything. Then one slave fell in love with his daughter, and he killed the slave and stuff. You know, so that story was buried because it didn't sound pleasant. Now, I said to her, can we look at it from an holistic point of view and expand the awareness a little bit? I said, in their days and time, those things were acceptable. So you cannot judge him for the laws that operated in their time. But let's look at the principles behind it. A man who can trade in slave trade means that that man has a sense of industry and has business acumen and negotiation skills, right? I said, so that's a power that God has placed in your lineage that was being used wrongly. Said number two is stealing other people's wives. That's someone who can take territories. So he has capacity to go beyond his territory, to take territories and win, right? I said, so put that's the principle was used wrongly. I said number three, right, is the fact that, you know, he's someone who is protective of his own. So he's a protector. So I will put all those values down, and I said, check your life. Do these things play out in your life even now that you're a Christian? She said, yes. That she has industry, but she always feels bad. I said, it's because you are running away from the power God has placed in your lineage. Now, because the moment your language is taken away from you, the moment your story or history is taken away from you, there is nothing left. There will be an imbalance or a vacuum at the realm of your identity. That's why you see a lot of African children who come to the diaspora, after a while they start smoking. You say they start getting into addiction and whatever. All those things are symptoms of a fundamental issue, and the fundamental issue is that I don't know who I am. Because every misbehavior can be traced to either a non-discovery of self or a non-remembrance of self. If you don't know who you are, you're going to mess up. If you forget who you are, you're going to mess up. So then you need to be aware of the ultra agenda, because now the definition for family is changing. And that's why you want to give your children their authentic self and who they really are, so that they are not shaken by all the, you know, madness going around the world that we see every day, and people trying to redirect what the word of God says, you know, about who we are. Number two battle line is our history. What is our heritage? What stories do we tell ourselves? Now, some of you have had terrible experience growing up, but that must not define you, right? You must find your terrible experience as the suspense in the movie of your life. Your life is a best-selling movie tending towards a happy ending. Every failure, every pain you have been through are classrooms that God put you in to prepare you for something bigger in your future. So you must never waste your pain. You must not be defined by your pain. You must be defined by your happy ending. Right. Number three battle line is the battle line of village, which is support system. When you get in love with someone who has no support system or authority figures over their lives, you have married a beast or you have married a monster, and they are qualified to molest you or mess you up. If I decide to misbehave now, my wife knows she can call mommy, and all she needs to do is to call me and say, Praise, you know, that's all I need to know. If she says to me, Praise, I do not want to see you even go and speak anywhere, I am accountable enough to understand that she's trying to protect me, right? But when you are falling in love with someone who says, I'm accountable to God, what does that mean really? Please tell him to go to God and get a written undertaking signed by God to show that he's fully accountable to God. Because you cannot claim you're accountable to God when you're not accountable to man. So you need to understand that support systems become very critical in building of an effective families. And number four is the family has got a mission for the world. Your family has got a message. You need to figure it out. You need to find it, and you need to live for that mission. Now, it's interesting to note that, you know, India says they have a message for the world, and the message they have for the world is to bring illumination to the world. That is their belief. And so it's not by happenstance that most of the CEOs of the Fortune 100 companies in the world have Indian heritage. Because when you know the mission, a sense of mission, right? So for example, a lot of Nigerians are moving to the diaspora. Do they have a sense of mission? If our mission in the diaspora is to occupy, influence, and take authority, we will collaborate. But if our mission is to run away from Africa so that we can come here and buy a car on credit and display it on social media so that we can molest the people at home, then we have failed. And you see shades of that all over. So you need to understand that every successful race is powered by intentional systems, while the least successful races are powered by emotion. What this simply means is, in developed nations or developed economy, nobody is above the law, which means if you go against the law, you might go to jail. Now, in developing economies, people are above the law. So even when they misbehave, they expect you to clap for their misbehavior because there is no accountability platform. But you see, that manifestation and behavior was not a behavior that fell down from heaven or hellfire. It started from the family. A man or woman who is not accountable at the level of the family, where nobody can call him to order, will never be accountable when he gets into power. So the gap between a predictable and erratic society is often systems intelligence powered by the village system. So we say that the most important nation on earth is your family, because your family is the production factory of the society. So in every system that is reputable and every system that is strong, there are four things you need to understand. Number one is the entry point of the system. Now, in the entry point, which in this case, family, entry point is marriage. At the point of marriage, we need to agree what is our engagement strategy in this marriage. What are the terms of living together as husband and wife before we even go to the altar? That's why right now what we're doing for churches, we've created a new curriculum that we're licensing to churches to now use, to now prepare people for marriage, because we cannot lean on the old curriculum. And there are so many psychometric tools that will reveal people who are even lying, who are pretending, so that we can prevent people from being deceived into marriage. So you need to agree on your engagement strategy, then on your retention strategy. What kind of experience are we going to give to ourselves in this marriage, and how are we going to go about it? So entry point is the first level. Number two is the acculturation process. Acculturation talks about how do we want to think and what do we need to do to have beliefs alignment. A lot of couples have beliefs incompatibility. What does that mean? So husband believes that only wife must cook. Wife believes that husband and wife should cook. That's already on equal yoke. So you need to do the village alignment to say, what must we believe as a family for us to get to where we need to get to, right? You need to do several alignments on financing, on sex, on visitors, on how your families can come in. So for example, if wife believes that family members can come in anytime they like, and husband believes that, they need to pre-inform us before they come in, you need to align and say, what do we want to believe? And what you must believe must align with the outcome you want. That's where the systems intelligence come in. So your acculturation process, even for your family, for your children, you must have an intentional curriculum. Let me tell you, the Nigerian, Ghana, or American curriculum cannot produce the child of your dreams. So don't fool yourself. If you entrust your child into that curriculum, they're going to mess your child up and give you another child that is not yours, which means you now need to create your domestic educational curriculum. If I have time, I'll just reel out what you need to do about that, because there are about 9 intelligence systems that you must build for you to have an effective family system. Number 3 is the transition point. So if you have done a proper acculturation process, when the products of your family are leaving their house, how do they live and where do they go? Are they living because they are upset, because they are angry, because I see a lot of teenagers who say to me, Prince, I can't wait to get out of my parents' house, because they're always fighting, right? They won't tell you that marriage is overrated, love is overrated. When you hear people make statements like love is overrated, marriage is overrated, that is a statement from a place of pain. They may be laughing about it, but it's trauma induced, right? Because a lot of the people, if you have lived with parents who love themselves, if home front is settled, you're not in a hurry to get out, right? In fact, they will literally push you out if care is not taken. So transition point, we need to ask ourselves before we get married, who do we want the product of our family to be? Where do we want them positioned? Are they going to be influencers, or are they going to be people who are just going to be looking for jobs all over, right? And that's why we critically mentioned the concept of perceptual code. Perceptual code is the engagement word that defines who your members of your families are and how you relate with them. So if you say everybody in this family is a royalty, then it means you can't call anybody stupid, no matter their stupid action. It means you need to engage them as royalty, which is negotiation, right? So transition point. Then number 4 is deployment. How do they measure their impact, and how do you place and support them? That when they encounter other cultures, can they stand? How you know that your family has been properly scripted is that when your children find themselves in a strange culture, they're not going to bow to that culture. They will assert themselves based on who they are. And you see, this is critical. I mean, many of our parents got away with it because the world has not become this toxic. Right now, many families will not survive that if we are not intentional about these things. Now, so an effective family system is all about determining the outcome you want and adjusting yourself to align with the required code that produce the desired result. What does that mean? It simply means that the first question you need to ask as a couple or your family, if you don't have children, is what result do we want? So let's say the result you want is you want to produce a family of royalties, of influencers or transformational leaders who transform their world everywhere they go. Then the question is, who do we need to become to produce that outcome? And that's why this entire spectrum of information must first change you. Because if you don't change, many of you are unwilling to change, but you want miracles to happen. No. And I know you're thinking, miracle, we know they tired Jesus. No. You need to work out the miracle. That's why you need to work out your own salvation with fear and with trembling. Now, in building an effective family systems, there are a couple of systems you need to build. And these systems are not something you rush into. You cannot even pray them into your life, right? And so you need to understand that governing system is number one system you need to build. In your family governing system, that is because your family must be a shadow of like Nigerian government, right? And so what it means is, you know, in the system, you need to create your family vision. That's the governing system, which is where you start from. Why are we together? You know, if the two of you mean well for each other and your family vision is not aligned and articulated, you will mean well, but you will be at conflict or at variance with each other, because a vision is a mental picture of a preferred future. So let's say husband wants a family that is prosperous. It goes to the right. Wife wants a family that is prayerful, godly. She goes to the left. They will own themselves, but they are headed in different destinations. So if you don't build an effective family governance system, which consists of your family vision, your family values, the DNA creed of your family, the legends of your family, then the activities that can help you deliver your vision, if you don't arrive at those things, you are going to struggle. But beyond that, we've added a number 6, which is the constitution of your family, right? Constitution talks about the rules and regulations, and that is your clearest chance of being protected, even as a woman or as a man. Because, I mean, part of your constitution can say, for example, conditions for taking a second wife. It might be that for anybody to take a second wife or a second husband in this family, there must be a constitutional conference for the family, and eligible voters must be daddy, mommy, and the children. And majority must carry the vote. Let us see how you will win the election, you know, in that kind of situation. But because these things are not documented, somebody just wakes up and he says, I've impregnated someone, do your worst. And we see shades of that consistently. So your governing system is the clearest way to preserve and protect what you both share. And you can't afford to compromise that. So you need to sit down and build that. Number 2 system is the communication system. Communication system talks about how we want to address ourselves and how we want to resolve crisis. You know, there are some families where when you're going to call your child, you call them and see if you want to kill them. You know, praise yo, the child now, oh, and things like that, right? You want to decide that based on your family vision, what kind of communication style is going to work for this family. And in communication style system is where you create what we call open day. Open day is the day of the week that happens once every week, where every member of the family is allowed to say what they want to say the way they want to say it. The rule during open day is, number 1, nobody gets angry. 2, nobody is defensive. 3, whatever I said cannot be used against the person that said it. And number 4, if what is said is significant, you need to change, right? What open day does is prevent your pent-up emotion. I have seen cases where you say this woman is very quiet, she cannot hurt a fly. Then one day you hear that she has killed her husband. How did that happen? She has suppressed a lot of pain over time, over the years, that eventually when the thing, you know, flipped, it just flipped to the other side. So you want to create that system where even your children can join. I mean, my children join us in Open Day right now, and they will feed us back on what they don't like, and we would make adjustment at it, right? It also promotes accountability. But beyond that, you want to ask yourself, how do we want to be corrected? When is the appropriate time to be corrected? And how do we go about it? Right. Number 3 systems you need to build is the family educational system. Now, I said that you cannot rely on the educational system because you want to ask yourself, you know, every nation that I've researched, when they are about to create an educational system, there are 2 questions they ask. 1, who do we want our citizens to become? Number 2, how do we want them to think? I'm not sure if Nigeria asks that question or many of the African countries, because if a child just goes through our educational system, it's most likely going to end up confused, right? And so you want to create, institute your own educational system based on your family vision, to now begin to say, based on the vision we want to achieve, how do we want our products to think? That is where you begin to ask, what kind of book do we read as a family? What kind of movies, who do we listen to, and what curriculum do we create? In my family, for example, we have what we call the royalty, you know, which is like a compendium of people change the world. 10 minutes video, you know, and the children listen to it and we discuss it, right? So I usually recommend once a week. We do every day, you know, because my children live in Canada. So, I mean, you need to double up a lot, right? And so you need to create the time. And that's why I always say to people, you can't say you don't have time, because you need to create time for what you think is most important to you. Now, next is the family economic system. And family economic system is, how do we build a robust economy that ensures that the life we want can be powered, right? And so when people say to me, you know, Praise, every time I give my wife, every time I bring money home, that's when my wife remembers that she wants to buy a shoe. If you check, the shoe is, there's an entire room packed with shoe. I always ask, can you show me the family economic system charter, right? And so this is also where you solve the problem of our money is our money, my money is my money, because that is resource control agitation. That alone is going to tear a marriage apart. You want to ask, you know, what kind of economy do we want, right? And so what everybody generates is the internally generated revenue of the family that goes in the direction of the federation account. Now, if we don't live on a budget, you will self-sabotage. In the sense, and I mean, practically, I almost did that in the first 3 years of my marriage, because I wasn't financially intelligent. I thought I was the savior of the world, called to solve every problem. So every problem I saw, I was fixing it at the detriment of my family, because I didn't grow up to learn how to live on a budget. My wife is from a family where everybody lives on a budget. So by year 3, year 4, that we handed finances over to her, she put me on a budget. She said, you are the president of the family, right? Okay, this month, we're going to give you 100,000. Do whatever you like with it. But remember that once you finish spending it, right, there is no extra till the next month. Honestly, that was the longest month of my life, because in the first 2 weeks, I'd exhausted my money, right? And so I became very humble. So I went to meet her to say, this money is finished. It was not, because I was used to blowing like $1 million. I was training banks. I was earning 350,000 every day when I trained banks way back, right? So I was like, and you know, there is this thing about man, the ego, that says, after I'm making most of the money, why should you want to turn it to rough? Now that is emotion. We are building a system. So when I got to her and I said, sweetheart, money is finished though. I need to survive the next 2 weeks. She said to me, where do you want us to get it from? And she said, okay, I have an idea. I said, there's money, you know, we go for annual vacation. So we save. So do we give you do we give you your own, right? So that when we're going for vacation, you stay back in Nigeria. That didn't sound right. Then she said, okay, we have money for entertainment when we go to the movies. Should we give you your own part? You know, that's why I always beg people, marry a wife who can hold you accountable. Don't just marry someone who says yes sir all the time, right? Marry someone that you can agree on something and can stand on it. Because that month was when I mastered financial intelligence. By the second month, they gave me my 100,000. Nobody taught me to sit down and plan how I was going to deploy it. So all the I used to do, that was when I learned to cook from home and take to the office. Because before I would just enter Mr. Biggs or enter whatever and buy for all my friends, right? So I learned to, you know, choose me and live within my means, just because there was someone in my life who taught me how. So your family economic system, because God has given every family a measure of oil. God's plan is that you use your oil to create all the sources of income that makes you less dependent on that oil. But many people don't know. The Bible says there's much still in the treasure of a wise man. They fully spent it all. So when I see people, I cannot save, I cannot save, I cannot save. No, you are spending on unbudgeted expense. And if you cut down the quality of your life, you realize, I mean, I tell people, I love to look good, but I have a designer who designs all my things. I don't wear brands except they give me as gifts, because everything I wear looks good on me, right? And so I always say to people, if you have not grown to a certain level, don't be trying to impress people, because nobody sees you at the end of the day. So your family economic system must be properly built. Then you have your domestic management system, which is the system that governs how you place everything in your family, and orderliness. Orderliness talks about, for example, if you eat rice regularly, you should know how long it takes you to finish a bag of rice. But many of you, you get to your kitchen and you say, yeah, I want to cook, salt has finished. Do you know the running around of that can even elevate your high blood pressure? So you create what is called the reorder level. You know that your salt will finish in 2 months. By the first month, your supplier is already calling you to say, should I reorder? Should you reorder? Should I resupply? And things. So you build a system around your life that gives you peace. Next is the entertainment and recreational system, which is the system that enables us rest and that enables us at least enjoy our life. But what we say is that your life must be such that your entertainment must not create discomfort for your neighbors. And that includes your prayers. Because I know many of us pray in the morning and we shout a lot, but your morning may not be your neighbor's morning. It may be your neighbor's night. So a doctor who has gone on a call and has gone back home to come and sleep, if your prayer now begins to disturb him, you know, you are not considerate, right? So you want to create a robust entertainment system. Then you have the security system. Security system talks about your immigration system. And what immigration does, have you asked yourself, why do most countries first give you a visiting visa before they give you permanent residency? Is to test your behavior, whether you will return or you will not return. Why have they refused many of you visa? Because they've checked your record to say that you're not likely going to return. So the same way, in your family, you cannot give permanent residency to people you have not tested through visiting visa. So you call somebody to come and do visiting visa 72 hours. He came to spend, but in those 72 hours, he's called your children stupid. He slapped them. He has eaten and not washed their plate. And your wife is trying to correct them. He said, you know, my brother's house, hey, you know, we do whatever we like here. That is a domestic terrorist. You do not negotiate with a domestic terrorist, no matter who they are. You evict domestic terrorists, right? Because they are going to upset what you are trying to build, especially when you are trying to talk to them and they don't listen. You know, when I take people through we have a 1-year program that we take a lot of couples through, right? And when we take them through that program, you know, it's called Neo-African Ancestors, right? When we take them through that, we help them create a family handbook, right? And in that family handbook, everything about your family is described there. So when the visitors come to live with you for 72 hours, we get them to read it, right? And they read it and say, this is this family, this is our vision, this is our value, this is what is acceptable here, this is what is not acceptable here. And then we do an orientation for them to understand that this is not an anyhow family. Because if you do not put them through how you want, what you want in your territory, they will do anyhow. Imagine if America decides that anybody can drive as they like. Accidents will just be happening everywhere. But if you beat traffic lights in the middle of the night, your ticket will be waiting for you at home, because that's a system. So you do not want to create a chaotic system where anybody can just come in. Your immigration system is your hope of protecting your family, because many of you are brought in family members. I mean, I always say that. I mean, my father brought in his sisters, brought in aunties, and some of them were the people that molested us children, right? So if you bring in someone from the village who you don't know is hooked on pornography, and his phone is in the hands of your children, that's how many children are hooked on pornography. You know how many people have been molested by uncles that they've told your child not to tell you? You know, so you want to build a robust security system. The final system you need to build is the family healthcare and wellness system. And what does that mean? Preventive medicine. You see, what you eat eats you up. You want to be careful what you eat, right? And so you want to check, because we need to last long, and you don't want to spend your money on unnecessary ailment, right? So you want to check. I mean, it was Hippocrates that says that your kitchen is either a pharmacy or a mortuary, right? And that's why I laugh at men who say, I don't go to the kitchen. You better pay attention to how what is being prepared, and learn how to prepare it so that you can last. Now, that is an entire framework of building a family system. But let me zone in on one before I tidy up so that I can take a few questions. So one of the critical systems you need to build is the family educational system. Now you want to ask why? Because your thinking is what produces your behavior. right? So we say that whatever you believe is what you behave, and what you behave is what you become. Whatever you desire to become, it must start from your belief system. Your belief system must start with educational system, because there were several things that were imposed on you as a child that your parents didn't even know why they imposed them on you. I mean, I look at my childhood, for example. What were the things I was exposed to? Yes, my parents prayed every day, twice. We read Psalm. That was when I got born again. There were scriptures I didn't have to learn afresh because I knew them by heart. But beyond that, they allowed me watch TV. And what were the things on TV? You know, we had funny movies that promote voodoo. So our models were Abijah, Father Yoloro, and all those funny people, right? And we were gyrating like them. So I realized that what if they have loaded my brain with enough intelligence, you know, and people that change the world, right? I could have gotten a better head start. And that's why for my children, I'm loading their brains with the right things, with the people who change the world, autobiographies, and all those kind of things. So the first thing in creating family educational system is you first need to create your family vision, because it's critical. Every other thing must rest on it. Japan has a national vision. Their educational system is built to deliver the result of their national vision. So in creating your family vision, you're asking, who are we? Why are we headed? What is our spin? And who is the beneficiary? There's a protocol to that I can't share with you here, right? Number two, you need to determine the portrait of your citizens and your role. Who do you want the product of your family to be? How do you want them to compare to other citizens of other nations of the world? How do you want them to think, and who must you become to flip the script? So you can even adopt an existing nation and say you want to think like them. So how do they behave? How do they do the things they do? You want to check that out. It's called modeling and mirroring. So you determine the portrait. So we say everyone in this family, we want them to be this. These are the results we want them to be. We want them to manifest at the highest level. Number three, you now create a perceptual code. You create a descriptive word that represents them. You know, I work with this with families. So one family says they wanted to help their children to be celebrities and influencers. So what did we do? Based on that perceptual code, the way they ate in that family chain, in fact, they repainted their house, created what looks like a paparazzi, you know, system. So every time you're going to school, right, they take pictures together. When they come back, they take pictures together. Right, and that was how one of their children developed interest in photography. He's a celebrity photographer right now, right? Based on that perceptual code delivered, right? And so in addressing them, so if you say they are royalties or celebrities, how do you correct them? How do you instruct them? How do you discipline them? So it takes the power away from your emotion or your aggression or your trauma or your pain, and infuse a code that you must follow. Number four, once you do that, you create a curriculum. Now you want to ask, what is the content of the curriculum? How do you source for them? How many subjects and how many periods, and what outcome do you want? Now, Google and YouTube are your greatest resource in this. There are so many things that has been taught in there. Just search. You will find enough information that you can use to create curriculum. It's very, very easy. In fact, at some point, my children, when they go to Sunday school, when I became uncomfortable with what they were learning, I started creating my home for them. Now I share with a couple of families. So you need to create your family curriculum that is unique to you. Number five, you want to ask yourself, how must it be served, right? How do you model it? What is the best learning style? I said to you, if you're a parent who never read books and your children never see you pray or read the Bible, they're not going to pray or read the Bible, no matter how much you shout and scream. When we're laying our bed, our children don't lay their bed. The moment we start laying our bed, after we woke up, they start laying their bed. They learn from what they see you do. So you need to learn how to reinforce and how to future pace. Do you want to do classrooms? Do you want to do storytelling? And if you look back at the African system of raising children, you realize that our parents did something that was incredible. I don't know how we managed to lose it. They created characters in Tortoise and his wife, right? If you are from the Yoruba speaking part, it was Ijapa and Yonibo, right? And they built a lot of valuable lessons around the Tortoise and his wife, that from things like how to be contented, to how to be honest, to, I mean, all kinds of, so every evening, there was someone in the family who used stories, and you never forget stories. In fact, stories are your best bet at teaching anything, because your children never forget. Now, number six, you need to monitor and evaluate. How do you examine what they're learning? So, for example, if you teach your children, don't collect things from strangers or don't eat without clearing. You need to now send them to your siblings' place or their uncle's place and tell them, offer them food, and let's see whether they will call to get clearance. If they offer them food and they eat it, don't shout and scream at them. It means they've not mastered the lesson. You need to reinforce it again, then you test it, right? Because many of us just teach and we just hope that it happens. No, you need to test it intentionally. What systems do we put in place to test? And number 7, how do we apply whatever they are learning? What activities must aid implementation? What must they produce that will show mastery? So we need to understand that God is doing something critical as Africans. Every time I look at what is happening around the world, right, if you observe, the Middle Eastern countries, the Arab countries are taking a stand, right? The Western countries, which are the foundation in Christianity, are not taking any stand. Free for all, everything goes. Now, a time is going to come, God is going to need a new generation. Never forget that the nation you call Israel today was Jacob's dysfunctional family. It was not even a perfect family, it was a dysfunctional family. But God brought out his glory from that dysfunctional family to show that I don't need perfection. I only need a family committed to progress. So I tell people, don't shoot for perfection, shoot for progress to be better than yourself consistently. So you need to understand that God will have to depend on your family as a new generation of ancestry to transform the world. So I often ask people in my classes that if you look at your entire lineage, how many years do you think your family has been in existence? Some of them will tell me 300 years, right? So if your family started 300 years ago, the person that started the family, what was his vision for his entire descendants that now led to you struggling 300 years later? I said, it means that that person took a bad decision or did not even take any decision, just enjoyed sex, married, did whatever, and died, and he passed it down. I said, but are you thinking of your own descendants 500 years down the line? Right? Because you can become a new ancestor and define the future of your generations unborn. Why do they say God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? It was because a certain Abraham took a decision that affected his entire generation. So you must see yourself as that new ancestor that must define generations unborn up until year 2500 or something like that. That your children, when you are dead and gone, they will look back and say, our parents took a decision that took our family out of poverty, or that took our family to a place where we could do things right. There's a family in Europe called the Rothschild family. At a certain point in the history of the world, the Rothschild family became a family that was giving loans to countries in Europe. One family giving loans. So a country needs a loan, they will apply to the Rothschild family, right? They were at the helm of innovation. You have all sorts of other families like that became empires. So never underestimate the power of your family to become a nation. But you can never become a nation, and the Bible says a great one shall become a nation, right? A small one shall become a nation. What it means literally is your greatest best bet to moving from where you are to where you need to be is embracing systems. And you see, once you begin to create orderliness, right, God sends a lot of increase your way. So I need you to always remember that the most important nation on earth is your family. Your family is the production factory of the society. One thing I have chosen to do in the next 1 year is to work with families. I think my team can put the links in there. You can join us. We are raising a new generation, and we're going to be, you're going to be working with workbooks. We're working with them every month. They're building one system per month, and we're tracking. You have workbooks. You are redesigning a whole lot of things, to totally transform your reality, because I bother about the future of Africa. I have seen what the Indians are doing in North America, collaboration. Trust is not an issue. I have seen what the Palestinians are doing. I've seen what the Jews are doing. But even among us inside church, we don't even trust ourselves. So how do we build when we don't have trust? And trust issues, the foundation is in family. There are things that family is what can teach you. And if we are all learning the same thing, we can now come together and say, you know what, guys, let us take on the world. As against, let us fight ourselves. And I tell you why we need to do this. I did a study around all the African countries. And every time I did that study, family life in Africa, all the African countries, except for the Northern African countries, every other country I researched, I cried. You know why? It's almost as if they put two unlike people together within the same, so that they will be fighting themselves for the rest of their life. They will be imploding from within. That's why you ask yourself, what is causing war in Mali, as small as Mali is? What is causing war in Niger? What is causing war in Burkina Faso? That small country. Why did Hutus and the other people kill themselves in Rwanda, as small as they are? It's because the slave masters put on like minds, on equal yoke with them. Look at Nigeria. We don't even know how many ethnic groups we have. If you check, it's between 250 to 300. We don't have precision, right? And so you realize that we keep producing leaders who are tribal lords and not nationalistic in their approach to cast a vision for an entire nation. But your family is the best bet at making that happen. And that's why we all need to do this together and pay attention and take this thing into our hand. God has empowered us to do it, and we need to do it for the future generation. I hope this has been helpful, and I hope you have learned something today. Thank you very much, Mommy, once again.
Oh my God, I'm just speechless again. Praise. What? Woo. Thank you, everybody. I see your comments. Thank you so much. God will preserve you. And I keep praying for you. God will preserve you. Amen. And coming again. Jesus. Thank you, everybody. Please show him some love. Thank you. Please tell us, how can people, this is a global family. People are joining us from Dubai, from Japan, from everywhere. So please tell us the things you do. Some people are interested.
Okay. Thank you very much. I work as a family life strategist. I'm building a family life innovation hub in Irving, Texas, where my office is, but I live in Canada. And what we are doing right now is a multifaceted approach to family life. So when we spot a family life problem, we create an intervention. So last week, Saturday, for example, we were having a meeting with people who are divorced, right? And I mean, that's a neglected group. So they met in Nigeria and they met in Dallas, right? And we were providing, I'm listening to them on, I developed a huge, because there were so many things not being addressed, but holistically, what we do is to help you build the right systems that can produce the outcome you want. So we have a certification program. If you're a family life professional, you are not trained, you want to be certified, we do that, right? We have a family system engineering certification program, which, is been regarded as the only certification program that combines therapy, strategy, systems intelligence, and coaching, right? You usually have them differently, but that's the only program that combines that. And then we have something for family. So if you are head of family or you're a parent, we have the New African Ancestors. It holds both in the diaspora and both in Africa, wherein you are working with a workbook and you are working with a group of people in creating. The ultimate goal of that is actually we want to create villages across different nations of the world, so that when an African steps into that nation, he doesn't need to be looking for information up and down. If an Indian steps into Dallas, the information it will take me 1 year to get as an African, it will get it in 1 day. Why? Because they have a village. So, but we can't do village when we don't trust ourselves and when we have not built systems. So we have an entire program that will affect how you script your children for success and how you build an effective family. So it runs, onboarding starts on October 4th, right? And there's a low entry, very affordable. You can click on the link and sign up, right? And so it would run all through 2024, but from October, you begin to get a lot of information and a lot of activities. So you're going to do a lot of activities. It's very intense, but your family is never going to be the same. Everyone who has gone through it, they have the same testimonials. But we also have something for the children called Ready for Life. We created a 6-year curriculum for children, ages 8 to 18. So they graduate from 8 to 9 to, that can help your children understand systems. I'll tell you, what is being used against systems in diaspora is children in the diaspora is systems. And when our people don't understand systems engagement, right, they'll become a victim of the system. So, for example, a lot of African parents don't partake in the, in the schools board, for example, in the diaspora. And so they take decisions that affect, African families, and we are not aware. But I sit in the room. So we had a conference, family life conference for all the coaches in America, about 2 months ago. I was the chairman planning committee because I joined from Nigeria. So I've been 5 years with them. And they took a decision in the room to create a new certification program that people should take, right? And so they were presenting it, and I raised my hand in the room to say, how did you arrive at all these conclusions? Did you consider the Africans when you were doing this? And they looked at me, and they said, oh, yeah. So I asked the question. I said, how many of you in this room have seen any movie from Nollywood? And nobody. So I said, we have not seen any movie from Nollywood. How did you understand our culture? So I've been able to incorporate us into this. And based on my observation in the room, they couldn't proceed. And they said, oh, in fact, one professor stood up and said, Praise, based on what you said right now, all my courses, I would insist my students watch a movie from Nollywood. Because I said to them, I said, we understand America because we watch American movies. We understand India because we understand Indian movies. But you are not willing to understand us or make an effort, yet you legislate for us. Right? So if we are not in the room, right, a whole lot of things. So we have an entire curriculum that will teach your children on what, and I'm saying to all of you here, if you are in North America and you're an African parent, please go and join Rotary Club, right? If you join Rotary Club, you'll begin to see things differently. Almost everyone I've told to go and join, when they get there, they are the only African in the room. When I went to join Rotary Club in Las Colinas, I was the first African to join that Rotary Club. They said no African has ever come here. So little information that we need. So we need to give our children a head start. So Ready for Life solves that problem. We have a new session resuming in September. You can sign up your child, but it's ages 8 to 18, thereabout. You know, so we have a whole lot of parenting programs, but I am going to strongly recommend the New African Ancestors program for you, because then we're able to work with you on a long term, and it's very cheap, very easy to do. But every month we're teaching you stuff, but we have added something to it, which is sexual education, what to teach your child about sex from 18 months to 18 years, every month around the year. And that's for obvious reasons, because there is a way, there are things we can't say publicly now because they're going to flag you as homophobic. But we also say now that if you say we can't say what we want to say, then you are heterophobic, right? Because our own worldview, we're heterosexuals and we have a right to live our life the way we want to live our life. But there's a way to teach it, right? And those are the things we are going to put in place. So I invite you to join us in the movement. It's a critical movement we are raising, and it's something we have to do. And now is the time to do it.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much. I am praised for Fowowe. That's his handle.
Yes.
Please go. Someone is asking, do you have a program for singles?
Yes, we do. We do premarital classes for singles from time to time. I'm sure if my team puts their number down, you can ask for the website. I mean, we have quite a number. We cover actually everything, and we have over 1,000 family life practitioners that can work with different people, and all of them are competent actually. Yeah.
Fantastic. Somebody is saying, is Rotary not satanic?
So let me tell you what has happened.
21st century,
I joined Rotary Club of Las Colinas here, which is an urban city in Dallas. And the moment I joined them, I noticed the caliber of people coming for meetings. My mayor was attending meetings. Now, if your mayor, the mayor of the city is like the head of the entire city, so I'm able to sit with him. I'm able to ask questions. I'm able to attend programs. I'm able to support. Rotary is not demonic at all. In fact, the Rotary are the owners of the land. And they are the ones that can tell you, how things work, right? And they generously position you for opportunities, right? And so you want to, in fact, the last president of my Rotary Club is a reverend, is the reverend of the Presbyterian Church. My Rotary Club, they pray Christian prayer before they start, right? So please, that misconception is very wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We've been programmed in church.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm a Lions Club.
Good.
Hey, praise, you are coming back, please.
I always at your service, man.
Please go follow him and then go on his page. Even me, I'm going to do a course, in his, one of the programs now. I've told you my intention. Nobody's an island of knowledge. Nobody knows it all.
Yes.
How can I thank you? How can I thank you enough? So if you go on his website, you will see all the programs that he offers. Please be a part of this. It's going to be a blessing to you. Once again, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Greetings to your wife, beautiful wife, children, and back very soon.
Thank you.
God bless you. Thank you,
Amen,
everyone. Please have a fantastic night. See you next week, Tuesday. Thank you. Thank you.